Nick Bolton got paid in the offseason, but it's going to be tough to live up to that contract. He might be able to do it if he does one thing in particular. That's today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in, Chiefs fans. We are happy to welcome you back as we get ready to take on the run-up to the Chiefs training camp 2025. All the new players, all the returning players, how it's all going to balance out in the 53. That's what we're running towards. I am Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, as well as NFL33.com and RGR Football, the channel and the site. I am joined with my partner, Chris Clark, at KC Chiefs Corner, where you can find his work. And we've been doing this together, going on 9 seasons. I've covered this team from a number of facets. Chris has from a number of different facets. I've got some experience in coaching, two very, very differing perspectives that we bring you every single day, like everybody does here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen. Make another Locked On show your next listen. If you want that much more, you can get on our text line at 816-357-8781 and get in the action with us as we go through our run-up to training camp 2025. Now, to get there, you got to make the roster. Who's in contention for that at the linebacker spot? That's coming up later in the show. Before we get there, we're going to have to talk about the core contributors, and that has a couple of different facets to it. What it means on the defense and what it means in other contributions to the team, that is a determining factor. But we start where we have to start, and that is a guy that is a leader on this defense, a leader in the linebacker room, and has to take a step forward now that he got a contract. Nick Bolton was paid in the offseason. At 25 years old, he is the number 5 contracted APY linebacker in this league, with 30 guaranteed overall, and that is quite a hefty number. This is, in terms of proportionality, as close to Anthony Hitchens' deal was at the time that anybody's ever been in Kansas City for the last 30 years. And that's the problem. Hutch was not able to live up to it. It became an anchor around his neck as he ended his career, and that's difficult. Nick Bolton's not near the end of his career, but he does have to make some changes to live up to that game. He is a guy that is best downhill, and that has not changed since the day he walked out or over from Mizzou to Kansas City. I don't think anything's changed, but he's played at a better level overall as he's come into the league than I expected initially. Does that warrant this contract?
I think Kansas City said everything that they needed to say by giving him this contract. They gave him the exact same contract that Sherwood got from the Jets. Numbers wise, they're tied 45 million, 30 million guaranteed, 15 million a year. But I think what this contract says is that they felt he is such a big part of the defense that they absolutely had to have him here. And they paid him instead of potentially paying Trey Smith, who hasn't signed a contract yet, or keeping Joe Thuney. So to me, that tells me that that's how big of a thing it is for them to have him in Kansas City and have him be the leader of this defense.
Yeah. And I'm going to explain to you exactly why they had to do that. He is the leader at the second level of defense, at the linebacker level, whether you call that nickel, dime backers, the safeties that come down, whatever it is. He's the number 1 guy there. He's also one of the quiet leaders of this defense overall, a team that just lost Justin Reed that needs voices, however quiet they are, to lead by example and to lead in general. And this is the bottom line. And this is why I find that it may be difficult to jump up and live up to this contract number, because of his core liability is still his core liability. The difference is at this point, and from his mouth expectedly, Steve Spagnuolo put it the only way that it can be put. He is an extension of the coaching staff on the field. If Steve Spagnuolo doesn't give you an answer, he has told the rest of that crew, do whatever Nick says. And I love that quote, because that's the point that and you go back to Kiwanuka with the Giants days and the other linebackers that he had. Spags wants a middle linebacker, not necessarily to come off the field, even if he's at a disadvantage or in a bad matchup. He wants a general on there at the second level, no matter how good the defensive line is. He wants that linebacker to be in charge.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Nick Bolton's going to be. And the thing that Nick has going for him that some other guys may not at his position is his age. He's 25 years old. He could probably play another 5 years. As long as he stays healthy, he can play another 5 years. And really, you probably won't see a slowdown which is a huge deal for him because of the way he plays. You won't see a slowdown until probably closer to 30. So he may even be able to play through the entire contract without really having a slowdown physically. And it's a big deal because he wins with his instincts. He doesn't win with his speed. Speed is his liability. And if he loses a step, that's going to be a huge, huge issue for Kansas City, but it's not likely to happen, maybe even under this contract, since it's only a 3-year deal.
It could be. I think that's really key to making sure that you step up in a range that you can still perform in the way that the expectation is for you to perform, because so much is put on his shoulders. Now, the liability is that man coverage is still not his thing. Zone coverage between the tackles in the hook regions is fine. Getting out to the flat is sometimes a challenge. Sometimes he makes plays there. As I said, he has outperformed my expectation of him coming out of Mizzou in terms of his ability to cover. But it is hit or miss. I will say this. The thing that to me justifies that flip in still recognizing that it's a liability on a down-to-down basis, when given the opportunity, his X factor plays, the fumble recoveries, the returns, every now and then he makes a play that makes up for that down-to-down deficiency, in my opinion.
Yeah, and his biggest attribute and the thing that got him paid is his mind. He sees plays before they even happen. He knows what the offense is generally going to be doing, and he's always in the right place at the right time in the right holes. So that is what makes him such a great player, is his instincts that get him to where he needs to be. It's why he doesn't need to have higher end speed. If he had higher end speed, it'd even be more ridiculous, but it's his instincts that get him there.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's not the only thing that has to happen for this team to be successful this year, but it's a big thing that has to happen, is Nick Bolton. Now, tomorrow we're going to talk with Matt Derrick. We'll get his opinion as somebody that has some Mizzou ties. I'm sure he'll have one, so don't miss that. And then coming up later in the week, we're going to get to, as well as the rest of the position reviews, we are on Trey Smith watch. Don't you worry. We're going to have that covered. But next, we are going to get to the linebackers that have to contribute and what those contributions have to look like right after this.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. I've used Monarch Money for at least 7 or 8 months now, I think, and I've loved it. It is awesome to be able to have everything at your fingertips. You see, and it budgets out your money. It shows you what you're spending your money on. It shows you your income in, your income out. It is a fantastic app. You need to go give Monarch Money a try. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
You can get that much more when you make sure that you're consistently listening to every show that we're putting out, because we cover each topic as it relates to the others. So subscribe here on YouTube, on the audio platforms, wherever you need to get it, and get over to our sites for all of our content. We're going to take it from every different angle. And the angle that I want to take on the rest of the core contributors in my mind means players that contribute at least, say, 40% of the snaps on defense, or 60% of the snaps on special teams. Is that a roundabout good definition for you?
Yeah, I'm good with that. It's so much different than some of the other positions. It's hard.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It comes down to that. And there's 3 starting positions on this roster. I'm trying to do air quotes over here. That's not necessarily the way they play. They're not in base that often, but it does ring true from time to time. And what I think this year is going to give them is a lot of confrontations with run games or run determined offensive coordinators anyway. And so you're going to fill that out with Drew Tranquil and with Leo Chenal, and that's perfectly fine. And I think both of those players should be due for an upswell. I thought Drew Tranquil played a little bit heavy last year. I think he can improve that. I think Leo Chenal is still underutilized, and I know that they like to drop him down and rest the passion, like to have him do some of the cool things with him. But just from down to down linebacker reps, I feel like if you can force teams and they're going to give you this run look, fine. I am comfortable with Bolton and Tranquil and Leo Chenal out there as a 3 linebacker, true take on the run kind of set. So I think that that's not a disadvantage.
No, and I actually would love that. I think that it's Chenal has not played enough, and I think that it's something that he could add a little bit more. It was interesting to watch last year him drop into some coverage at times, and it wasn't a lot, but it was enough to show that he has the ability to do it. It's not the best thing that he does, obviously, but it's something that he can do, and that becomes an even bigger thing because if you want him on the field more, he's going to have to be able to drop into coverage a little bit more and be able to do that. And that also is a situation where it could lead to him getting his second contract, which we've talked about. It's possible that he gets before the season starts.
Yeah, I think that is, and I think that would be smart because I think he brings an attitude and a drive to this roster that it desperately needs. It has to be a little bit more vocal. It has to be a little bit more physical, and I think that's exactly what he brings. But if he can't get out in coverage, I know what they're going to do, not to cut you off.
No, I just was going to say, and he's not going to break the bank because he isn't a every down linebacker. So he's not going to be somebody that's going to break the bank. But you could pay him and keep him here and have him as somebody that can step in and help you. We're talking mostly defense, but he's helped with special teams too. He's had some big special teams plays. He's had some offensive plays, and I'm not going to be shocked to see him on the field offensively for the Chiefs for, I would say, over 10 snaps this year. I don't know that it's going to happen every game, but I would expect that he's going to have, at least 2 or 3, in the first month of the season, and it could be even more. We'll see if they can build on what he did last year.
I would love it. I'm ready for that 4-point fullback stance. Let's go. I want to see it in the full formation, though. That's what I'm looking for. But sorry, Andy. If Andy's already got that queued up. Sorry, Coach. I don't mean to cut you off. I will say this. If he is not able to get on the field, particularly in coverage situations, I know who will. Jeffrey Bassa, the rookie from Oregon, will be that guy. I know nobody wants to hear it, especially for those who really value contributions on special teams. Jeffrey Bassa is the number 4 linebacker on this team. It's not a question. There is nothing that can get in his way. No offense to Jack Cochran or anybody else that we will talk about in the roster push segment here coming up. Bassa offers a little bit of everything. He's got enough physicality that I won't say that he has as much take on a Chenal, certainly, but I would put it close to Nick Bolton. He can duck a little bit more than he takes on at times and survive. He certainly can turn and run. He's been the green dot at the college level. He can take over the middle if Bolton has to miss games if they need him to. He can go out to Will and let Leo take the middle if Nick has to miss games. He is, I think, a jigsaw puzzle piece that doesn't have any rough edges. He can fit in any spot that they need him.
Yeah, and that's exactly why they drafted him. And it's an exciting thing to be able to add a guy that can do that because the reality is that you don't want to weaken multiple positions by having to move guys around. And they've had to do that in the past when you start looking at injuries at different positions. Linebacker, they've done it as well. And I think that's a big thing. Keep Drew Tranquil out there and put Bassa in if Nick Bolton gets hurt. Keep Nick Bolton or keep Chenal where he is and put Bassa in if Tranquil gets hurt. I mean, that's the type of thing that you want. You want a guy that can step in. And I understand a lot of people are going to say he's a rookie. You don't want him playing a ton of snaps. And I agree with that. That's not what you necessarily want. But the reality is that he can step in and play all 3 of those positions, plus give you great special team snaps. And he has something that Chenal doesn't in the speed. So he gives you the ability to cover as well. He's going to be active every single game day, regardless, just because of his ability on special teams without even looking at his contributions on defense.
Yeah. And I will say this. He's got more natural cover ability, not just the speed to go with it, right? Like he knows how to cover. Honestly, in my film work, I think he has more natural ability and coverage than Drew Tranquil did coming out as well. And Drew was a safety. So it's a different kind and a different style. But I do think that gives you 2 viable coverage, quote unquote, linebackers. If Drew Tranquil drops his weight back down and goes back to what his classic presentation of a linebacker is, instead of last year's, what I felt was a little artificially bulked up, they could be a duo that is on there in the 4-2 formations that can cover sideline to sideline.
Well, and I'll be interested, and I know that you're going to tell me that this isn't going to work, but I'll be interested to see if they can use him because of his skill set and because of the way he does things. maybe they use him more and they go away from the 3 safety sets to an extent. I'm not saying a ton, but maybe they use him more and they have a little bit more size on the field to protect against the run, because there are going to be some teams that they're going to be going against that you're going to want that extra size.
Yeah, and they're all in the AFC West, right?
Yep, pretty much. That's the way that works.
And don't worry, folks, I'll be saying the same thing to the AFC West coaches or hosts when we talk to them, and we always do an AFC West preview every year. Don't miss that. It goes out on every channel in the AFC West. And yet it's still got a little bit of edits that give you a little bit of different flavor. You don't want to miss that. And I will tell Q and the boys exactly what they need to hear. So it's going to be fun. It is a run for last place, Raiders, but there's a run for this roster as well, even at this position. Who are they coming up next? This is more like a running of the Bulls type for the roster here. There will be some linebackers on the practice squad as well. And if you heard before, I'm not trying to be derogatory to Jack Cochran. I think he's come and he's played great special teams, and he's made a couple of contributions on defense. But I don't think he's a starting defensive level player in this league. I do think Bassa has that. But he is, in my mind, the number 5 linebacker on this team. Does that ring true for you, or is there somebody else that you like better?
I think that it's probably true. I think that Cam Jones is also there. I think that it's 5 and 6. Those guys are probably the 2 guys that you would say are probably 5 and 6. Cole Christensen's in there somewhere. So you have those 3 guys that you're thinking are going to be fighting for that last roster spot, and we'll see, because the reality is that position is only going to have 5. Period. They will not have 6. That is going to be a 5 position. That is going to be 5 people on that at that position, because, like we talked yesterday, offensive line, defensive line, all these other different positions, you cannot afford to keep more.
No, there's just not enough slots. I think that does mean that the practice squad can be a little bit heavier at the linebacker spot. So that will be. In my mind, this comes down to a battle for a guy that I back and I also feel has natural coverage ability and has decent diagnosis ability. But the physicality of the game, he has not caught up to yet. Cam Jones in college was every bit the versatile player that Jeff Bassa was at Oregon. But at Indiana, he wasn't asked to take on linebackers as much. He still hasn't been able to really do that. And when he has been in the defensive game a couple of times, I haven't seen much progression there. So I hope that year 3 is really the turnaround point where that can be something that is apparent in his game. Not just you hope that it's there, but it's like overwhelmingly there. And if that's true, then he may be able to push for that 5th spot and make it a true competition. Otherwise, I think he is destined for the practice squad.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, there's this linebacker position. You already know the top 4. We've already talked about them, and likely you probably know the 5th is going to be one of those guys. It's going to be Jack Cochran, or it's going to be Cole Christensen, or it's going to be Cam Jones. There is another name out there that people say could have a say in who is going to make the roster, and I'm not going to say that I expect it, but it won't shock me based on what he did in college and just based on kind of the things I've kind of heard in OTAs and the minicamp so far.
240 pounds and 6'3", wearing one of my favorite numbers of all time, 5'0". Brandon George is a name you're going to hear in training camp. He is going to be pushing Jack Cochran. He's going to be pushing Cam Jones. This is a guy that if it clicks for him, you're absolutely right. His ability gives him the ability to make the roster. If not, they better shut him down and not show him on film, because I want him to make that practice squad. Okay.
Yeah, I get that. And the question is obviously you look at this roster and like we said, it's going to be 5. I think that if George makes the roster, that's great. I think it's actually even better than the other guys, just because you go at youth at that position, which is going to save you a little bit of money. And it's not really about the money. It's just about getting younger and continuing to try to get younger and trying to get guys that can maybe step into more of a role as things go. Because I will say this, Jack Cochran hasn't really progressed very much from what we saw when he came out. Cam Jones, same thing. Cole Christensen, same thing. You're getting core special teams guys that, yes, I know Tobe loves, and they have value there. I'm not trying to say they don't, but the reality is you also want to have guys that can play special teams, but maybe can offer a contribution on defense at some point in their career and maybe become something a little bit more. Because the reality is Nick Bolton's here for 3 years. We know that. Leo Chenal has 1 more year on his contract. Drew Tranquil, I think, has 2. You have linebackers you're going to have to replace at some point in the near future.
Yeah, you got to stack them up and let them roll out. Because the way this team plays with linebackers is different than most. Steve Spagnuolo, and if you listen to him carefully, he doesn't dwell on details, and he won't tell you that this is my personal philosophy. But if you listen to the way he speaks about what the linebackers need to do, he gives it all the way. They're not concerned about stopping the run as the number one thing. They want guys that are smart. They can get into the zones that they need to get to and take away easy passing downs. If they get run on a little bit, Steve Spagnuolo is going to live with it. And he's going to coach them up on how to trigger a little bit quicker, how to fill that gap a little bit better. And they're going to take their lumps in the run game as long as they're not getting beat to hell in the pass game. And that's just the way that it's going to be in Kansas City until Steve Spagnuolo is a head coach again.
Well, until Patrick Mahomes is no longer in Kansas City is probably the reality, because they're not going to care about the running game as much because of who their quarterback is. That's the reality of the way that this defense plays is, yes, they want to be able to stop the run. Yes, they want to be able to stop the pass. But when you look at how this defense plays, it's going to be, okay, let's slow down the defenses. Well, let's slow down the offense as much as we can, slow down the passing game. But we're not going to care if we give up a couple of yards in the running game, because we don't think that they can keep up with our offense. And that's the truth of how this defense is going to play. And generally speaking, under Steve Spagnuolo, they have kept most of their opponents under 20 points a game most of the time, or at least close to 20 points a game. And if they do that, there's no way this offense should be losing games this season.
Yeah, it is two edges of the same sword. If you can do them both, hopefully we're in for a lot cleaner season than we were last year. I don't need any more of these last-second kicks that get blocked or any of this craziness, okay? I want a lead going into the fourth quarter that we never have to feel is in doubt. That's the goal, okay?
Are you listening, Reed? Because that's all on you and the way you call the game. It's not necessarily on this team.
That's fair. That's fair. And in this preseason process, as we're doing some of these reviews, we are going to give you intake and outtakes on the coaching staff, on what the team has to change. It's not all on the players. So look for a show on Friday that we'll do something different. You want to make sure that you're here for that. Those are always fun on Fridays. And Matt Derrick's going to be with us tomorrow. We very much appreciate you getting liked and subbed, and make sure that you're always available so that you always hear the latest episodes, because they're every day on every platform all the way around for free. So if you would, please click that bell. Check out the rest of the Locked On Podcast Network. Go over to KC Chiefs Corner, RGR Football, and NFL 33. Have a great one, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.